starting like your little Etsy company, and it's all like, oh,
It's
you
not
know,
little.
Yeah, it's not little, it's growing.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't understand why we weren't.
I don't know. I got so deep into that conversation
God
I forgot to
damn
hit the button.
Yeah.
I got wrecked on keys. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. You guys were like making fun of me. I was like, you're gonna spend like $80 on keys, and you know, you guys were like, nah. They're like,
well, the kid who
20
worked there
cents
was like,
each.
oh yeah, it's like. I didn't say that. The
Yeah.
kid that worked there said that, and I was like, "Oh, bet 80 cents on keys. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Give me all the keys." And then I got to the register, and it was like double what he said, almost triple.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
oh,
triple.
okay.
I mean, I guess you kind
What
of
is
do want them to be quality.
I don't think that. Those are the bottom. I don't think there's anything lower than that. I got like the cheapest quote unquote keys. I mean,
Hey, listen, if
And they
you
were still like $10 a pound.
yeah, it's like,
probably
metal-
more expensive than that.
yeah, metal's gone up, guy.
Listen, supply and demand. Home Depot's got to make that bottom line look good, you know. And if selling $8 keys is how they do it, you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, I guess.
They're like exaggeration, of course. They were like $280 something each, right?
No, it wasn't that crazy. Well, it's not that crazy. It was like $2.20 a piece or something.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Not that crazy, guy.
I mean, you did save like $3 right there. Just that.
It was ridiculous, but you know, at least the locks are changed, and I gave everybody their keys, so and life is good.
That's what you got to do, you know. Sometimes it's a tough life. You got to set up everybody with keys, you know.
I was like, why is my rent $2.20 more expensive this month?
Yeah. Just invoice everybody for their key.
I don't see the problem.
Hey, listen, it's the maintenance.
So yeah, and then while we're at Home Depot, we were with Becky, and Becky got excited about the bubble tape.
Oh, the gum.
The gum, yeah. And she got so excited, she picked it up, right? She's like, oh,
Yeah.
look at this. And then she's like, immediately, like, I didn't see her do it, but I pictured in my mind viciously just throwing it on the floor. But anyways, it hits the ground, and like it pops open, and I was like, oh, great, now you got to buy it. And then she goes up, she's like, I don't have my wallet. I was like, oh, great, I got to buy it.
Nice.
Am I going to be expecting an invoice for like
You're going to get $1.52.
Listen, just send it to the house.
Oh,
I'll pay for it.
It was funny, guy.
And then she dropped it.
Oh no! Before she dropped it, she's like, she takes it out of the package, right, the whole thing, and she bites into it like the worst way possible, like just one bite out of this roll of tape, and it's just like a curve in it, and she was like, ha, and then, and then like 12 seconds later, she drops it on the concrete. I was like, just leave
it's a
it.
massive write-off. Yeah.
That whole thing is just a waste at this point.
That one bite of like just inhumane.
Yeah, the most inhumane way to go about this.
Honestly, yeah. I was joking around about that, like the idea, like, ha, bite it, like on the side, and then she actually did it.
Yeah, she
and
didn't
I was all
hesitate. She was like, oh yeah,
what?
bet. Just
Like, I've never seen somebody genuinely do that. Like, for all of you playing at home, it's like the what is it? What is the brand name? Because we don't care. What is
Bubble
that?
tape.
Is that the brand name?
Like the brand, like Hubba Bubba.
Hubba Bubba, I think is maybe. I don't know.
I thought Hubba Bubba was like the little square one.
Yeah, but I think Hubba Bubba makes
Oh,
it.
they're like the parent organization.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. That one, the pink one.
Yeah.
That smells like chemicals. That
my favorite.
yeah, that like just adjacently resembles bubble gum. The one that comes in rolls.
Yeah.
She just bit the whole roll like from the top.
Anyways, that was awesome.
I think that's on video. So within the
Oh yeah,
next
you guys
couple
will.
weeks.
Yeah, you guys will see that. I think you're gonna see. I think she definitely got a picture of, or at least a video of, like the
Yeah.
wonderful curve. It's gonna trigger so many people.
It triggered me.
I tell you that I was triggered, guys.
I think even worse than that are people who like take the bite out of like a Kit Kat.
And just like without
That's-
breaking
yeah.
it in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I think that drives me crazy
Animal.
because like bubble tape, like it goes back in the package, so you don't have to like look at it. And if it's yours, like that's like a good kept secret, you know. But like that Kit Kat's out for the world to see, guy.
but like you usually finish the Kit Kat within like a few minutes, but like that you're not gonna finish.
Guy. How long does it take you to eat?
Well, I mean, I'm saying worst case scenario, you'll get that done. But I was comparing it to the bubble gum, which you're not probably gonna eat it all in one sitting.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to keep opening that thing back up and taking another weird bite out of it.
I feel like you only ever take one bite out of it. I don't think that you genuinely take a look at that and say, you know, I'm gonna take another bite out of this gum.
I don't know.
If my kid ever did that, I would viciously beat them.
Jesus.
Like, I'm not raising you to be some kind of like serial killer.
Are you a barbarian?
Yeah.
I'm affirmed to be a barbarian, guy. That's like I said, that's like really serious. Like, you have a serious problem if you're a kid and you just like go and just bite it and then leave it and never eat it again.
Yes.
It's gonna be a future killer. He's like, no.
There is something like against like going against the grain, which I find funny. Where it's like, oh, if you know people are gonna get like triggered about it, you bite a Kit Kat in like a weird way or whatever, or like biting a Kit Kat from like the side.
Yeah, but kids don't. But kids don't think like that. No. Like,
if kid thought that was the best way to get it done.
Right, it's one thing if you're like 20 and you do that just because you know everybody's gonna be triggered, and it would just be hysterical to watch their reactions. And it's another thing to be 5 and be like, like gum, like.
That's an interesting like psychological thing where it's all like sometimes we do things solely to hurt other people around us, like in like an entertaining way, and it's like if you just change the age group, the whole scenario just goes like wildly out of proportion one way or the other.
Like I said, that's like serial killer 101. Pretty soon you'll be finding like dead animals under their bed.
That's a bit extreme.
Jeez. It's just later that day.
You have a lot of small children in your family, Eric. I was really thinking about how to phrase this question, but I was like pondering. Yeah. Have you ever noticed some extreme like character traits in any of the people that you know?
Just throw them on blast right on the podcast.
I mean, if they listen, good for them.
Subscribe, sign up for Patreon.
Yes. There was one that all right. So it was one of my little cousins. She is probably like a year and a half, right? So very tiny thing. You know, she shouldn't be. So one of her uncles, I don't know who it was, but it was one of her uncles on the other side of the family. Like, it's like playing with her and like goes to pick her up, and then she just goes, "Put me down." I was like, oh, my hands went up from across the room. I was like, oh, I'd put her down if I were you guys. Nice. Yo, he put her down so quick. Oh, a year and a half.
I'll probably never pick that kid up again.
Yeah, I know, right? That was it. That was the last time anyone picked her up.
You just sits in the corner rocking, sweating.
Yeah.
Me too.
He's got his lawyer on retainer.
Yeah, he's like, yo, I didn't do nothing to her, I swear.
Yeah. Jeez, it's crazy.
Yeah, but that was probably like that's the first thing that came to mind. I'm sure there are other stories, but that was it right there.
Observing human interaction is so interesting because it's like children see humans for what they are. Like we as adults, we can observe somebody do something and we might not necessarily agree with the way that they did it, but we know why they did something. Mm-hmm. If you know what if you're following the train of thought. But then kids observe what people do and they don't understand like the social aspect to it. They just
what's that on your face?
Yeah.
That's right.
They just understand like the concept of going and doing something.
Yeah, just get to point A to point B.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
it's like eating the Kit Kat thing, where it's like, oh, you see, I have to eat this thing because it tastes like chocolate and it's good and it's sugary, and it's like, well, the point is just eat it. Like, there's no like social norm of how I'm supposed to consume this chocolate bar. I just eat it like any other chocolate bar I eat.
Yo, my niece eats like Hershey's Kisses.
Yeah,
but she does it in like 4 or 5 different bites.
Wow.
So, and I'm just like, I watch it. Yeah, she'll like bite off the top first, chew that down, and then she hits every side at a time, and then like the final centerpiece. And I'm just like, she's like, this is how you're supposed to eat it, and I'm just like, why?
That sounds frankly like Again, not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
It sounds like,
I'm
frankly, like OCD, like
It
where
might
it's
be.
like systematic.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think it. Maybe.
I'm not here. I'm not here to like diagnose.
If any of you guys have any ideas,
We'll get out of your family life.
yeah. but-
Stop booging around in Arizona.
I think.
and then I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Then this other cousin.
Oh yeah. I think one of the worst things actually as a kid you're talking about like social construct worse than like taking a bite out of the side or like just like the whole bar.
Mhm.
Imagine if you just gave it to a kid and the kid just started like just gratuitously like just like sucking on it so that like all the cookie and everything's there and it's just like chocolate melting everywhere.
I'm sure it's app.
Oh,
That like just the thought of it just gets me so irked.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, I don't want to say what I would do. I don't know what I would do. Listen, if my child ever starts sucking on a Kit Kat,
Wow.
that's like the line right there.
Can I return this, please?
Can I bring this one back and get another one?
you returning the kid or the Kit Kat?
Both.
Yeah, a little both.
Here, do you take these? I don't have the receipt.
But I swear I got it here.
You know what I've never seen anybody do, which I think I would be interested to see, is like biting like a Hershey's bar, like the ones that are segmented into smaller
Squares.
subsidiary
Yeah.
Hershey bars.
Yeah.
You know,
I do that.
you bite Hershey bars, like the ones that are subdivided.
I mean, I don't think that's as bad.
Kinda.
I usually don't. Usually I break them apart, but
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's
I've,
why they're
I've bitten them though. Like, no, ain't nobody got time for that.
to break apart.
Guys, there's a
You
lot of
just-
little pieces
You
there.
just snap it, and then you just then you use your teeth as leverage to break off the other ones. They're social constructs.
they put the lines there for a reason.
Exactly. They would have just put those for decoration and to not make more chocolate. Imagine how much chocolate they save by putting those lines there.
Oh yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah. If you're on a Hershey scale, like you get a
You
whole
are.
bar every like probably like 25 bars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the letters that are like embossed into the thing.
Yeah.
That's all chocolate saving measures. Like it looks funny. Oh, the people will like it more. Let's put some lines in. It's like, yeah, no, probably one every 20, 25 bars you get an extra bar.
Yeah,
It's legit.
that's legit. Yeah, that's good numbers.
Good work, Hershey.
Let's go start a chocolate factory.
Why do you my one of my
Karaoke rooms.
Yeah,
Karaoke.
We didn't tell you about that, did we?
Oh yeah, there we go.
you
Go ahead.
guys did karaoke?
No,
No.
Oh.
we couldn't afford it.
If people are paying those prices, guy, we're gonna start our own karaoke rooms.
So we went to bowling and they had quote unquote a karaoke room.
No, they had like 5.
Oh, they had more than one.
Guy, there
Apparently.
was a bunch.
Okay.
Okay.
So you go and it's like, dude, it was like $8 a person
Oh, snap.
to go into this room.
For how long?
Probably like a half hour
That's-
or an hour maybe. I don't know.
Does
it matter?
It's not like all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, fair.
yeah, definitely like some sort of. And then it was like, oh, military discount. You get an extra 10 minutes.
Sounds
You still
legit.
pay $8.
Hey, listen, it is what it
You
is.
get 10 minutes more than everybody else. All your friends will leave, but you can stay for 10 more minutes.
But all right, so but if you had a space with open rooms, like
Yeah.
and all you have to do is pony up a couple cheap mics and like a karaoke machine, probably like all said and done, like
like $300.
$300. Exactly, that's the number I had in my head too, like $300
Yeah.
out the door, guy. And it's just gonna sit there. People show up and pay you.
Well, but like, how packed was it? Was anybody using it?
That's to be determined.
I don't see the appeal of a karaoke. Like, okay, yeah, at one time it's fun. Like, you get a bunch of people together and you're like, yo,
Hey,
yo,
Hey,
what-
just
There are.
just leave that alone.
There are
you like karaoke?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't like karaoke either. I mean, that's not my cup of tea. But people pay for it.
Well,
Apparently, if it's there, people pay for
there's
it.
people who pay for everything, but
Yeah.
like, fair.
I do know some people who like, I don't know if this is the right word, but professionally karaoke.
At that point, you have your professionally karaoke. Yes. At
I-
that point, I think you have your own machine.
I don't know. I see them everywhere. Every time every time.
Well, but I mean, fair enough. There is like I'm having this little internal monologue where it's like, okay, karaoke is about the social aspect. Karaoke is not fun to do by yourself because at that point you'll just sing to the track on Spotify.
I can just drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Ty were talking about. I was like, I think the hardest thing about doing that is selling the fact that you're selling a room to karaoke. I think that's like the hardest part.
Doesn't
It's like
sound very legit.
convincing someone, hey, this is just $50. You and your 4 friends can go in there.
Where am I gonna find Where am I gonna find 3 more friends?
Yeah.
For $60 will provide you with friends.
Yeah, right, pretty much.
It's crazy. I don't know. I mean, I don't see the utility.
Oh, geez, Tyler just got an idea.
No.
Oh yeah, yeah. We get a partnership with like an old folks home, and it's like $50 for an hour, and then $60 will provide you with an audience.
Jeez.
You're like, hey Ethel, Beatrice,
Yeah.
come on down.
Come on down.
I don't think that
Jeez.
any person who, I'm just gonna leave that one right there. We'll be back after this ad break.
Stay tuned.
We would like to thank Anchor for sponsoring and hosting the Life podcast. So who are Anchor and what do they do? Anchor is the all-in-one platform that gives you everything you need to make and publish your podcast. And best of all, it's all free. Anchor allows you to use their creative tools to record and edit your podcast. No need for any fancy professional equipment. Sounds amazing, right? And we haven't even gotten to the best part. Anchor isn't just a recording and editing platform. They're a publisher too. This means that Anchor takes care of all of the hard stuff, like publishing to Apple and Google Podcasts, so you don't have to. So what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Another thanks to Anchor for hosting, publishing, and sponsoring the Life podcast.
Tyler's having a hard time getting his motor started this morning.
The mower.
The mower.
The lawnmower.
Ring ding 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 ding. Ring ding ding.
Yes.
Oh.
All right. So, welcome back to the Life podcast because we didn't even introduce ourselves. My name is Eric, and I'm here with Tyler.
And now something more constructive.
And Benji.
Hello.
What's today's topic?
The topic we were going to talk about was like the concept that people use failure or the idea of failure is okay as a crutch.
Yeah. What was the quote that you ended up reading? It wasn't our quote or anything.
It was
somebody else's.
Let me see if I can pull it up. It was like C.W. Frost, something like that. C.F. Frost. So let me pull it up. But it basically boiled down to like, hey, you can, if you fail, it's okay. Get back up or whatever.
Which is
like C.S. Lewis?
Yeah, there you go.
Nailed it.
Close enough.
C.F. Frost.
Yeah, it was
C.F.
close enough.
Frost.
I got most of the
Yo,
letters.
Yo, one letter right, guy.
I don't know who
Robert
these
Frost.
people are, guys. Yeah. C.S. Lewis. Here we go. Repeated failures are finger posts in the road to achievement. One fails forward to success.
Okay.
If I could read, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So once again, repeated failures are finger posts on the road to achievement. One fails forward toward success. Now, there's nothing wrong with that quote, but I think that the way that people interact with quotes like that
Absolutely.
is the problem.
Yeah, because we've had shows earlier. Just like a disclaimer, we talked about it. Like, failures are part of the process.
It's a part of the journey. Yeah.
Can't be afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And you will. It's inevitable. Nobody will just like not fail. Like out of it just happens.
It's some scale. It might not be like a big giant fail, but you will eventually have some sort of scale of whatever you consider failure.
Patriots are 9-0 right now. How long will that last? Could that be undefeated for like 3 seasons? Could you be undefeated for 1,000 games? But one day you're gonna fail because nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But like Benjamin was saying, what we're talking about before the show is like people use that as an excuse or a crutch. It's like, oh yeah, I can't think of a good example.
Okay.
But
take the wheel.
yeah, absolutely.
Take over, guys.
But no, absolutely. It's like like failing it's okay to understand that you're going to fail. You just can't go into everything that you do expecting a failure. Because when you go into, if you're expecting anything, if you wake up in the morning, you expect a bad day, you're probably going to have a bad day. So if you go into your next business venture expecting this to be just another chalk on your failure so that you can lean forward towards success, well, then you're going to fail, and you probably won't learn anything because you were trying to fail.
Or you probably just have a giant bag of failure. It's like, chuck another one up. Like,
yeah, and it becomes a really crippling place, because then everything you do, you think is like the failure is the success of it, which it's not. The success of it is the success of it. The failure is sometimes the result that you get when you weren't as prepared as you thought you were going to be. And it's a really crippling place when you go into it expecting to fail every time, because you're going to keep on failing and you'll never find that success, and then you'll start to get frustrated, and then your excuse is, well, Will Smith failed this many times before he was successful, and Oprah Winfrey failed this many times before they were successful, which is true, but they never went into anything expecting to fail. They expected success every single time, and they failed a few times along the way.
Hey, side note.
Those are, yeah.
Yeah, like who works quality control at BJ's water department? Like,
dude, I pointed that out like the other day off mic, but yeah, no, absolutely.
They don't. None of them line up.
Yeah,
but fair enough.
It's just, hey, it's Vavo in the bathtub, guy. You're not gonna measure too much.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like relative.
The amount of water that's in this one, like, definitely overcompensated and paid for this one here. Like, this one's about to like overflow. It's almost to the cap, and this one's missing a good like inch off the top. None of these are open, by the way.
These things happen.
Anyways, all right.
The problem that I agree with what Eric was saying. So I agree that you're not supposed to go into something with failure. I think that the issue that I have with all of these quotes is that, to me, failure is the act of not achieving what you want and giving up. It's both of those things. Like, I don't see failure as part of the process. I see failure as, I've decided we're done with this process and we haven't achieved what we wanted to achieve, so I'm done. And that is a failure.
So, like, failure, quote unquote failure, would we want to call them setbacks, as most people conceive as failure?
Yeah, I think that that's the issue, where it's like, I think that everybody subdivides their life into so many little things where it's all like, oh, like, we use the example of like the going up to somebody and saying that you wanted to buy them a coffee or whatever, or go out to coffee or whatever. And it's like, if that person says
that's how
no,
we make friends.
Yeah, that's how we make friends.
Oh,
like,
wow, I've been way off.
Doing it wrong. Yeah, absolutely. No, but like the concept of like going up to somebody and being like, hey, you want to grab a coffee sometime, and them saying no, that's not a failure for all future endeavors. It's just a setback in this one segmented portion.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so many times I see people who are like,
good.
I put an effort, like let's say, like I tried to learn an instrument and I did it for 3 days and then I stopped and then I didn't learn the song, so I'm a failure. I'm a failure at instruments.
Are you projecting?
No, I don't learn instruments. I just completely disregarded that. But you know what I mean? And like setbacks versus failures, and people are so set up on everything has to work perfectly that when something just doesn't go right the first time, they call that a failure as opposed to a setback.
I think that's awesome. I think that changing that mindset from a failure to a setback is key, and I think that it fits that quote a lot better. Because when you like, a setback would be like you kind of stumbled and you fell down a little bit, but you have no intention on stopping. You know what I mean? You have every intention of getting back up and moving forward. So that's far from a failure. Your failure would be, like you said, like just giving up, turning around, and like, I'm never trying this again. Like if like it was like the joke that I made earlier about like, I'll never do music again. Yeah, like that would be a failure because I'd be walking away from it forever. You know, but if it's just like a minor setback and you stumble down, it is a different conversation. It's a different mindset. So I really like that perspective of it.
And it's only a failure if you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah,
like,
I'm about to say, if you walked away from music, that wouldn't really be a failure, because I mean, you just made $10 blow up and you're like, I'm done. I'm cashed out. There's enough cash money to go around.
I guess, but that particular example was me being done in a negative way.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're done, like, because you successfully accomplished what you set out to do, then you're done. You know, that's good for you. You've finished your journey.
I'm pretty sure if Ben Dollars made it big, I would quit everything I did about music too. Like,
yeah, like
I have no future in this
I
industry.
obviously have no idea what I'm doing.
That's how it goes most of the time. Just keep like wandering your way to success. That's how most people do it. It's like it's interesting because I think I grill the Instagram culture so much because I have such a big problem with it in a lot of different ways. But it's important to like remember things don't happen directly. Like friction is a part of the process, but friction is not the failure. And that's where this whole concept really started was if you hear a quote by somebody and they say failure is part of the process, they don't mean that you go to work one day and then you quit the next day and you quote unquote failed and that's part of the process and then you go get another job 3 months later. That's not what this quote is saying.
Yeah.
The quote is saying when you go to work and you don't get the promotion when you were supposed to get the promotion or whatever, that is a friction portion of that season, that like that period of time. That's a part of friction. That's a quote unquote failure for this moment, and you power through that and you continue moving forward. The problem is that people stop at their quote unquote failures or setback. Let's use the term setbacks. You get a setback, you stop everything. And that's like a common theme for this whole show. We've talked about this a lot of different times where it's all like the setbacks are not the end of the game.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say?
Oh no, absolutely. The setbacks, like on the quote, it says that it's like what do they call it? The post. What kind of
finger posts?
finger
I don't know
post?
what that's.
Well, it's kind of like one of those things where you kind of stick them in the ground, and so you know where you last were. You know, so that when you do fall and you get up and you get lost, you learn from that mistake, and you know, oh, I've been here though. You know what I mean? And that's what really that becomes. It becomes once you have enough of those, and every time it inches a little bit higher up the mountain. I'm pretty sure finger posts are useful when you're mountain climbing, but I'm not completely sure. But I can Google that after on the break. But it's one of those things where I think it's more of a placeholder for you. So when you do fall, you know where you were, and so that when you get back up, it guides you, you know what I mean? So you don't get lost. And I think that's really important because I think that's what mistakes do. I think that's what the setbacks do for you is because the reason why you had that setback is because you made some sort of mistake. And if you did the mistake right, you learned from it. And then at that point, you most likely will not be put in a situation where you're going to make that mistake again. So you already are ahead of your own curve. You know, and you're closer up to the mountain, on top of the mountain, the summit of the mountain than you were before. And I think that's what quote unquote failure or setbacks are for. It's like no one's going to go straight up Mount Everest in one go and without any type of obstacles or any type of like issues.
Bet.
Okay. Tyler's going to go up Mount Everest without any issues or any mountain lions chasing him back down. I'm sure of it. But like you just don't know what's in front of you because you've never been there before. And no one's ever been on top of your mountain before. It's your mountain. So you have to keep climbing and you're going to have setbacks and you're going to have these things that are going to get in your way. But it's important to learn from them. And that's where you get better. You know what I mean? Instead of like the failure of that would be like, oh, this is the 107th time I've been stopped going up this mountain, but I know this is where I'm supposed to be, but I'm done. And you turn around and you head back down, you know, and that would be your failure because you never got to your summit. And that's what a failure is. And I don't think that you should be climbing multiple mountains in your life. I don't think that that's the answer. I don't think that you should go up one mountain and fail there and then go up another mountain and fail there and then go up another mountain and fail there. I think that it's important to understand that that's what failing is like you're leaving the goal. There are different ways to get up a mountain. You know what I mean? You can go the long way. You can go straight up. There's ways that are easier than others. This is a really big analogy. Sorry, guys. But it's just the vision of like the setbacks are very different from failures, and I'm really happy that you pointed that out because I wasn't thinking of it that way, and I think that that's a big mind shift that you need to make if you're going to succeed in your life, because if you call everything a failure, then you really don't know what a failure is, and then everything will knock you down.
I don't think that many people like. I look back on my life, and this is why. Like having a predefined understanding of what failure means. I think failure is a much more aggressive term than people realize it is. Failure is like the game is done and we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. And until you die, the game is not done. You know, and it's like there are certain situations where you can be removed from achieving something that you wanted to achieve. There are, of course, external circumstances and things of that nature. But it's important to realize, like, I've made mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes. And those have stopped certain paths that I've wanted to go on or opened other paths in different ways. But those were not failures because we're still playing the game. And it's like, I think so many times people are like, I can't do this one little thing, or I can't get this one little detail right, or I can't muster the strength to do this one thing. And it's like, okay, so now we have to throw the whole pie away, and we got to throw away all of the progress and all of the effort that we've already made, and we have to throw away all of the expectation and all of the things that could possibly have happened because we've quote unquote failed. And it's like, no, you hit a little hill, and this is the hill that you decided to die on when you could very easily have pushed through it.
Yeah, it's a sad excuse. Sorry.
No, you're good. I've failed. Well, what I thought was failure at the time was when I walked away from music years ago. And I walked away from it like twice, like legitimately walked away. And when I walked away for a handful of months, and I was just so frustrated and fed up with everything, and I got sick of trying so hard and it not working, and so I was just like, I'm done. I'm gonna go do whatever else I want to do, and I'm gonna be fine. And lo and behold, after a very long detour, I ended up right back to where I started. But when I did decide to go back to it, it was interesting that it was right where I left it. Like I didn't lose any progress. I didn't gain any progress. It was exactly where it was. Where it's like I never left. It was like literally like it was like a pause button was hit, and then it was hit play again when I was ready again. And it was interesting because I thought that I would lose a lot of traction, or that's just the thought of it. But it's interesting to think that. And what I thought that was a failure was because I walked away, and I classified it as a failure for a very long time before I realized that. It wasn't a failure. It was a part of the process. I had to walk away during that time, which if I could go back, I wouldn't have walked away for as long as I did. But now that I did, it taught me a lot about myself in that time. So that was a part of the journey that I needed to learn about myself in order to get closer to my dreams. It was something that I had to deal with. I had to walk away, and I had to understand what it meant to walk away before and understand everything that came with it when I walked away and how unsatisfied I was about my life, because I didn't have that perception of it. I didn't have that that understanding of what it really meant to walk away from something. But that was a part of the journey. After I did that, I was able to catapult myself so much further because I had a new understanding that I'd never had before that would keep me in this weird bubble. But there's the break, and we'll be back. Stay tuned.
You talking about it?
I'm talking about it.
When was the last time you fell? You or a loved one fell. Or whatever.
Life alert.
Yes. But yeah, we're talking about setbacks and the difference between setbacks and failures, and how failures are only when you end the game or when you walk away. We were using the example during the break of the concept of falling, where it's all like when you're a small child, newborns don't work, but they don't work. Children don't work usually.
They don't do much.
At least not in America. Nonetheless, it's like you're a small child and you're starting to walk, and you're taking your first steps, and then you fall. And then you take another step, and then you fall. And like you fall hundreds of times a day when you're learning how to walk. And then eventually you get to the point where you're getting a little bit better at it, and you only fall 5 times a day, and then you only fall once a day. And then eventually you get to the point where you can walk pretty gracefully, and you'd fall almost never. And then it gets to the point where when you're an adult, when you walk so often, but you fall so little that you forget what it's like to fall. And then every time you do fall, you think that it's this massive thing, and you're like, whoa, like I fell. And it's like, it's been so long since I've fallen, and you think it's this big, massive deal. And it's like, well, back when you were a kid, you were falling all the time. But now I don't fall ever, so it's a much bigger deal than it was when I was a kid.
Until you get old, and then you fall, and your bones are brittle,
yeah.
and you break a hip.
Then you just start falling all over again, and then you need diapers all over again, too.
Yeah,
oh, God.
it's a cycle.
But that's very true, though. And it's we're all the hero of our own story, so we think that everyone cares about our lives way more than they really do. So like when I do fall, or either physically or just in in general.
Who cares about your hips?
Yeah, it's like, nobody, like, you get to a point where like, oh, everybody saw that.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna judge me for that, and it's like no one even cares. Like honestly, nobody really even cares.
You know, it's so funny. That's number one thing like people do. Like if you like cook it hard and just like fall down somewhere, like the first thing you do is get back up as fast as possible. It's like, anybody see that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, nobody did. I'm good.
Oh,
you
good.
can even be like hurting, like limping. But,
Yeah,
like,
just
like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. Wait, what's his problem?
If you want to fall and practice falling, go to the roller rink.
Oh yeah, it's been a minute.
I was sitting there. I watched like 17 people face. Never mind.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I was throwing sticks. I'm just kidding.
It's one of your birthday parties, or was this a recreational activity?
This was a recreational activity.
Oh, wow.
actually. Yeah,
It's getting serious.
I didn't get in the roller rink though. I was
Karaoke?
Like, my insurance no so good, so I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I can't. I didn't want to risk an expensive visit.
Employee insurance doesn't cover roller rink accidents. No, but to not get lost in the metaphor and to not lose the metaphor, the idea that setbacks are much more frequent when you start, and you okay? Much more frequent when you start, and much less frequent as you develop moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to realize that the more you get a stride, or the more you develop a stride, the more the little setbacks are going to seem like massive events, because your life is so much easier, or your interaction is so much easier. You know, if you're used to, like, that's why car accidents are such a big deal. Of course, they're dangerous and but because most of the time we drive in a society where no accidents happen, the less frequently they happen, the more aggressive they seem, because they're spaced out more distantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more momentum you have, the more noticeable it's going to be when you stop.
Exactly.
If you're doing 65 and you come to an instant stop,
It's going to be very noticeable, and it's going to be a big problem. But and I think that's very relative to like the person and how high you've climbed, because the higher you go on this mountain that you're climbing in your life to get to the summit, the higher you get, the scarier it is, and the more difficult it becomes. But those falls at the top seem a lot scarier because you're so much higher, and you look back down, you realize I can't go back now, and you're at a point of like I can only go forward, where this is the only thing that makes sense. And that's a scary place to be. But you have to keep in mind that it is just like if it's like the same thing when you were a child, when you just kind of fell down and you got back up, you know, and there are the people around, like there are some children that have their parents that when they do fall, they make a big spectacle out of it, give them extra attention.
oh yeah, that's the number one thing. Your kid falls, like, if you don't play it as a big deal,
They
it's
won't.
probably not going to be a big deal. I mean,
Exactly.
unless there's actual like blood and carnage,
yeah, and then you got to do what you got to do as a parent, but like or as just a babysitter, whatever your cup of tea is. And so it's just important to remember that the way you handle your falls, it builds up your character too. So like if you fall and you just brush it off like there was nothing really, like don't look at me, don't worry about me, I'm fine, to an extent, that then you're really building up your character so that you can really take some bigger falls in the future. And keep in mind that every fall is a placeholder for you too.
And it's also the idea of you need to take the smaller hits to get hit harder. You know, where it's all like, it's easy to say like, oh, if I was in that person's position, I would have done something differently or whatever. Or if I had that, I would do this, you know, but it's like, you didn't go through the effort that person went through. You didn't go through the style, like the life that that person went through. You didn't take all the small falls. Like, you can't be an Olympic sprinter without falling as a child, you know, and hopefully the metaphor translates. But to take those big hits, to take a fall at that speed, you need to be able to take falls at lower speeds first.
The example that comes to my mind is like the idea of football, and like you're not going to be just like an entry level kid who's going to get in the NFL field and like be able to take a hit without like probably dying. You know, you're gonna get hit so hard because this is what they do. So you have to take a lot of hits into like, you know, semi-professional and even like little league, and you practice how to get hit. You're every time you get hit, you learn a little bit about how to get hit so that it doesn't hurt as much the next time, and you build up your strength, you build up your endurance so that you could be all right. But it's like I remember being a kid. And I got into a football field, and I was way ahead of my league. These kids have been playing every weekend. These kids really know what they're doing. I got on the field, and I got the ball, and all of a sudden I was on the floor. And let me tell you, I got rocked. It hurt It hurt for like a week and a half, guys. And I wasn't conditioned for that. I wasn't conditioned for that kind of hit. I wasn't prepared for that kind of hit. Here I am thinking these kids will be all right. That they'll know that I'm not as advanced as them. They were not going to hit me that hard. I was wrong. I was way off. And these are the things that you have to condition yourself for these kind of things. You're not gonna don't expect to like start off and you're gonna get the biggest punch in the face. You're not. You're gonna it's gonna be relative to where you are. You know, you're someone who's just starting off last week is gonna have a different type of setback than someone who's already like a CEO of a major corporation. Their setbacks are a lot different because they've already been through your setbacks and they've built up to their kind of setback.
Or they don't even register anymore. Like the idea of if you have $1,000 and you get hit with $100 charge, that's 10%. If you have $1 million and you get hit with $100 charge, that doesn't show up on the statement. Like that's a rounding error. And we use the example of money because it's easy to understand. But if you're starting something small, if you're starting like your little Etsy company and it's all like
it's not little.
It's not little, it's growing, absolutely. If it's like one return is a lot. To Amazon, they have thousands of returns a day, if not tens of thousands of returns a day. It doesn't affect them. And it's all like something that affected you at the beginning of your process will not even register on your scale at the end of your process. So if something is registering on your scale, it means that it's so astronomically, it's built up over time that it's big enough to notice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Yeah. No.
Nope.
No, I understand that completely. It's just it comes with the level of it. Like there was once it's a quote from I think Russ. It was one of his songs, but he said the older you get, the more expensive your mistakes will become. Yeah. And I thought that was like probably the most profound thing that he could have said because it's so true. It's like when you're younger and you're first starting off in these things, like your mistakes are just little tiny. You know, like it grows with you. You know what I mean? So at first, like $10 is $10, but if you try to start that business, if you can start a business for $10, do it. But
karaoke,
yeah,
buy that karaoke machine at the yard sale. For
you know what I mean?
$10.
And you take that hit, and if it fails, you know whatever, you're out $10, which was a lot to you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you only had $100.
You always have karaoke machine,
but you always have a karaoke machine.
And that's basically the same thing.
You can sing your blues away.
But like as you grow and your company grows and you become a much larger, or even like as you get older and you have kids and you have a family and you have all these other things, all these failures are going to feel a lot more expensive because taking that time to go invest into something is now going to take away way more than you're willing to lose. And these are like, so I always say fail early, but I guess I'm going to change that to have your setbacks early in life because you're going to find setbacks. It is a part of the process. It is a part of the learning process. Like you have to, even in school when you're learning something, like there's a time of process where you're expected to make mistakes before they give you the test. You know what I mean, or whatever. But there is a process to everything. It's not just wake up and now all of a sudden I know everything I need to know. It's a matter of I have to learn it. You know, and this is the learning process, I believe.
And those setbacks, they give you direction on where to go too. It's like you go, you're cruising one place and you get to that setback. It's like, okay, that setback determines which way I turn from here, or how do I move? How do I recover? Because
because you can't always get through it. And sometimes there are things in the way, like sometimes there are things out of your control, where like I don't know, some sort of government new regulation that stops your business from going up. You know what I mean? That is one heck of a setback. You know what I mean? That's very hard. You can't go through that, so you do have to adjust to make that happen. There are very rare occasions that happens, but that's where my mind went.
The thing that Tyler said that was really interesting was how you recover, and that's an important part where it's like that's the highest level of learning is not learning, oh, okay, I know how to fix this problem and I know how to fix this problem. It's like, okay, I got to learn, like I have X issue, so I got to go through these 20 steps and this problem will be fixed. And it's like, it's getting to the point where you can see a problem that you've never seen before and say, okay, it has aspects of this problem, it has aspects of that problem, and these are the steps that I think I need to fix this issue that I've never seen before. And that's where growth is visible. If you can read a book and fix all of your life problems, you have no problems. That's not a problem. That's like a simple issue, because it's like, oh, okay, how do I like that's why like car mechanics are so interesting to me, where it's like, okay, there's a very simple issue here, and this is how you fix that simple issue. You don't need to be a mechanic to change your windshield wipers. Like, that's not a hard process. To rebuild an engine is a much larger task. And you have to know, you can try to read a book and try to fix an engine, but it's going to take so much longer than somebody who's seen all of those issues before individually.
And you need a lot more compound information before your how do I say it? Like your chance of success will be better if, okay, well, I took off an alternator, I took off the starter, I changed a few things here, I did a few things there. So it's like, okay, I already encountered some small problems. I have some experience on other parts of the car. If I'm going to take apart the engine, I can take all those other little things that I learned and try to apply them into this application, just go step by step.
Absolutely.
And you also get like little tricks of the trade.
Absolutely. You wouldn't know that. Oh yeah, when you put on the water pump, make sure that you put something some
sealant on it.
yeah, some kind of gasket or whatever.
So that it holds it in place, so that when you screw it in, it's easier, so you don't have to hold it and screw it at the same time.
There
These are
you
the little
go.
things that save time.
Yeah.
But that maybe the book wouldn't tell you that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's not like necessarily true for everything. And
Yeah.
it's like a quick little example. Kodak is making a super 8mm film camera, like film 8mm film. They're rebuilding it, and they made a press statement. They were like, listen, the reason why this has been set back 2 years is because we had to relearn all of the information that we already knew, but nobody wrote it down because it was quote unquote common knowledge. It's like all of the engineers who worked on this project were like, absolutely, of course you do it that way. Everybody knows you do it that way. But nobody knew 20 years later that was how that had. So we had to relearn lessons that we already knew 20 years ago.
But it just became obsolete, and no one looked at it again.
Exactly.
Isn't that something?
And it's like sometimes we see that in our own lives, where it's all like these are things that we each have to go through. Like seeing somebody else and saying, why did they do something that way? And like judging them and saying like, I would have done it a different way. They're doing it because they knew some predefined information that you haven't experienced yet. And that's important to realize as well. Like everybody's on their own path.
Yeah. And everyone, and that's why it's so important. Well, anyways, that's a whole different thing. I was gonna say it's important to special, but no, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I think that was a good episode. I hope that we helped somebody today. So do we have anything that we can plug in here?
We got Patreon in the description of this video, and the studio and the Life podcast YouTube pages are are in the description if you're on the podcast platform. Everything's in the description. Check the description. Say hi. Rubber ducks and coffee cups on Patreon. $1 a month. It really helps us out. AdSense. We always used to say AdSense can't be that bad. It is. So we'll see you next time.
So help us.
I guess I don't need this thing. Thanks for listening to the Life Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Come follow us on Patreon. We'd really appreciate the support. You know the coffee over here. Don't pay for itself. And there's the ducks.